All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the HaskinCast Podcast, episode 69, and my new friend, Jessica Eenhuis, is my guest today. Very excited to have her on the show. I met her at Phoenix Fan Fusion this past, May or June, somewhere in there, late May, early June, and she was one of the models at Summer Helene's panel. And, she just had to stand there for a long time in very uncomfortable looking shoes and be the gore side of the blood and guts and sex and violence and film panel that Summer does. And I just can't even imagine having to do that. And kudos to anyone who can do that kind of work, because it is certainly not for me. I don't really think anybody wants to see me in a bikini anyway. I know I don't. And I'm around me all the time. So before I get to our show, a little bit of updates as to where we're at here at Scott Haskin Music LLC. The Haunted Holidays 3 album is finished, uploaded to the distributor, waiting for release on October 18th. That is the day that it will drop to iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Google Play. I don't even know all where else, but it will be available in those many places. Beautiful artwork, as always, by Kelly Kincart, and stunning lettering by Rebecca Poole, who just nails it. Both of them just nail it every single time. So proud of them for being part of my team and the amazing work that they do. There's a reason that you keep going back to people, because A, they're great to work with. B, the work they do is great. And C, just because you like them. And both of these people are very dear to me, and every project, they just both knock it out of the park. So Rebecca came along a little bit later. I was using someone in, I don't remember what country she was in, but I became really displeased with her service. I found out that everything she was using was really just stock stuff, and I didn't know that much about it at the time. I'm not a graphic artist. I don't know anything about it. I trust the people that I hire, but I really went wrong with her. So at some point, I'll have Rebecca go back and do the lettering to the older albums before she came into the fold, as time allows, and I do updated releases and that kind of stuff. Right now, it's kind of like, I've got so many new things going on, to go back and do that really just isn't important, because they're not going to get re-uploaded to the different distributors that way. So anyway, that's where that is. And I got to tell you, before I bring Jessica on the show, I had the most amazing time last night. So tonight is Sunday night when I'm recording this intro. And last night I got to see Deep Purple play at the House of Blues. And for those of you guys that know me, you know that these guys have been the most influential people to me as musicians, as just people. The things that they talk about in the interviews, the bits that you get to know about them as people. Very impressive, very inspiring, and their music has just been a staple in my life since I was a wee little thing. They came out, played, I think it probably had to be an hour and a half, and I've never been so close to a stage before. I was actually in the front, over in front of Roger Glover. So the sound balance was a little bit bassy, but I enjoyed it. And let me tell you guys something. Anybody who doesn't think that Roger is a phenomenal bass player, just sit there and watch him play for 5 minutes. Very intricate stuff. He writes some pretty incredible bass lines. He's not just a root note player, doesn't just play 8ths or 16th notes. He's really all over that the bass, and it's really just a joy to get to see that, especially in person, and really feel it, because being on his side, that's where all the bass amps are. And even though they put bass in the mains, there's the stage speakers, which is what was coming right at me, and it was definitely a bass heavy show, but I'm really glad that I had that perspective on it. If I get the chance to see them again, I'd kind of want to stand right there again, but maybe I'd go on the other side to kind of balance that out and get to see what Steve and Don are doing a little bit more. But they came out and played, they're in their 70s now, early 70s, and they sounded better than ever. The life that was still in these older songs, the energy, the joy. I mean, anytime that Steve wasn't playing a solo, there was just a big smile on his face. Ian was joking, had a lot of power in his voice still. Roger just playing at the top of his game. Ian Pace, always phenomenal. Don Airey is just so energetic behind the keyboards. And it's funny because in a way, when you're watching him from a bit of a distance, it just looks like he's just chopping at the piano. Like he doesn't really know what he's doing, but the most amazing sound comes out. Such a beautiful and talented player. I could just sit there and listen to him, but I'm really glad the rest of the band showed up, of course, because that would be a little much to just watch a keyboard player for an hour and a half. Great sound on the stage. That was the best I've ever heard the House of Blues sound. I don't care for the engineer that I typically hear when I go there. The sound, I wasn't impressed anytime I've been there up until this point, but last night it was phenomenal. So I'm sure that they brought their own engineer. The opening band, I can't even remember their name. They were probably the worst opening band I've ever seen. And when, every single song, before they even started really, the singer's trying to get the crowd pumped up. And granted, they're there to warm the crowd for Deep Purple. But every single song, and before they even started, he's like, everybody say, yeah, how y'all doing tonight? Trying to get everybody we would have had no voice left. At least 60% of the singing was the crowd and not the singer. And when he was singing, you couldn't hear anything he was saying anyway. And then he started doing these really weird flips and vibrating on stage. It was just, it was kind of a mess. And I couldn't really hear the guitar player that well. So I don't want to say he wasn't good because I honestly don't know. But I would say that the bass player and the drummer should leave and go start their own band because they were pretty tight. Once we got through that, then of course there's the changeover and the sound check and all that. But man, Deep Purple started with their classic opener of Highway Star, and the train just kept running from then on. And I had to say, when they played Smoke on the Water, I knew they were towards the end. Then they played Hush, which I forgot that they did in their set. But then when they start Black Knight, it's almost over. And I got a little bit sad because I don't know if they're going to come back again. I don't know if I'm going to get to see them again. They've been such a huge part of my life. And it was a bit of a sad moment, but they were so fantastic on stage. And every chance that I get to see them, I got to grab it. There was one I missed when I lived in California. And I'm trying to think of what tour that was. That must have still been Rapture of the Deep. I'm pretty sure it was Rapture of the Deep. But anyway, yeah, I missed that one because I just moved to California. But, every other chance I've gotten, I've gone and loved them every time. So if you get the chance to see them, if they're still coming to your town, I know they're headed out west from here. And then I think they're doing some dates on the East Coast. But just go to deeppurple.com or thehighwaystar.com and you can follow their touring schedule. Go see them while you can, because there's really nothing like that experience. Even if you're not a huge fan of their music, even if you're sick to death of Smoke on the Water, it's 4 minutes out of your life to see them play it live. But to watch that band at that age, at the top of their game, performing immaculately, it's really something to go see. And it was just a lot of fun. So thanks, guys, for coming out and giving us a fantastic show. I guess it had been 11 years since they had played at the House of Blues. So it was good to have them back. First time I'd seen them there. Last time I saw them at, I think it was called at the Chelsea over at the Cosmo with Edgar Winter and Alice Cooper, which was another just fantastic bill. All right, so that's me rambling about what's going on in my life. I got a new single that I'm mixing, and that should be out in a couple of weeks. I'm waiting to hear back from the distributor with a question I had about the release, and then once I have that, then I'll go ahead and finish the mastering on it and upload it. It's actually, the mix is done, and I'm really happy with it, but when I mastered it, I kind of went over just a little bit, and there's a little bit that's distorting. So I have to dial that back and remaster it, which is a fairly easy process for me at this point. But yeah, that'll be out soon. And then I think the next thing on the schedule that comes out will then be the Haunted Holidays album. And then I'm following that up with some other singles. So very excited to have a lot of new material coming out. In between doing the podcast and some other things, I'm also working on a couple of albums for licensing. So lots of stuff happening here. And that's about everything going on here. I still need to get a newsletter out. I haven't done that, but that'll be happening very soon. And in the meantime, let's go and talk to Jessica. She's had quite an interesting journey. And when I met her, I would have had no idea the stories that she would tell me. And she shares some of those with us today. Here is Jessica Eenhuis. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am really excited, as I am every week, to bring on my next guest. This is a lovely new friend of mine who I had the pleasure of meeting at Phoenix Fan Fusion, along with Ellie Cat, who I had on the show a couple months back. And this is my new friend, Jessica Eenhuis. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Did I say your name right?
You are the first person to get it right. You get the prize. That is amazing. Thank you for doing that.
I didn't realize I was on a game show, but I'm even more excited now. Well, it's spelled like it sounds if you understand German names.
German, right?
Yeah, and I have some German in my lineage, so. Plus, I cheated. I listened to your episode with Summer when you were on Behind the Scenes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So now I don't know. Probably shouldn't announce this right off the bat, but that never stopped me. So your project that's coming out that I'm really excited about is you were in the movie Maya with our friend Victoria Page and directed by Paul Hemme. Did you have fun shooting that?
I had the most wonderful experience shooting that. Everyone was so amazing. The cast, the crew, the pages just flew off, and it was so easy. It was like butter.
Wow. You have to love when a production is, if you have that sort of camaraderie with everybody and everybody's there to make the project great without any sort of their personal agenda, it comes out so wonderful for the audience.
Yes, and it was organic. There was nothing forced. Everyone, we got along. We got our scenes in, and we were like, "Wow, did that just happen?" Yes,
very nice.
That just happened. The synergy was absolutely there.
Where were your locations? Were you in California with them?
It was all here in Arizona.
Okay.
Most of it shot up in Apache Junction. There was a few scenes that were shot up in Mount Lemmon, Tucson. That was my favorite when we got to go up there. I was sick as a dog.
Oh, no.
I was. The last few days of shooting, I was sick as a dog, but it was so beautiful up there. And the energy was flowing with everybody. And it was good. It was a good time. It was really good.
Well, that Mount Lemmon area is just beautiful. But shooting in Arizona, southern Arizona in the summertime, that is a challenge.
Absolutely. It was. And at times, at night, I think we started filming in February. It was cold. It was very cold at times. And you're just sitting out there, you're shivering. You have 2 jackets on, you have a blanket over you, and you have to jump into this giant man-made puddle that that's supposed to be this lake.
Oh,
and
wow.
You have to fall into it, and it's freezing outside. So we're throwing, I'm like, what can we throw in there to make it a little hotter? Well, they do it in the sauna. So why don't we take some hot rocks and throw it on in there?
Yeah.
Totally works. So if you're ever in the industry, the whole sauna hot rock thing, throw it in there. Your actors and actresses will love you for it. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a really good idea. And I love those creative ideas on the fly.
Yeah. And there's so many good ideas. And everybody pitches in. That's the actors around here in Arizona, the local actors. They're no joke. They're, they go out there and they put their heart and soul into everything.
Yeah, they're pretty diehard for sure.
They really are diehard.
What's really interesting to me, and this is really kind of the magic of movies in general, is that a lot of times what you see on the screen is exactly the opposite of what it really is. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of scenes in The Office when they, had to go outside and it's snowing and they're pretending that they're shivering. And they filmed that in California, and there's no snow anywhere. They had to mask a lot of the palm trees to kind of, persuade you to believe that it was Pennsylvania. And, but they're going out there and they're shivering. And I'm like, that's, when most Christmas movies are filmed, it's not really snowing. Otherwise they'd have to wait a year to release it. And no investor's going to wait that long to get their money back.
All right. Same thing with the swimsuit issues. Those girls are going out there in the winter time, freezing their little hind ends off, and they got to make it look like, make sure you don't have any kind of goosebumps on you.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it.
It's such a weird thing though, that what we present isn't anywhere near the reality of what it really is.
Yeah. And that's, on all facets.
Jaws was like that. When they filmed the first Jaws, it was actually freezing in Martha's Vineyard. And you see all these people on the beach in swimsuits and bikinis and shorts with no shirts. And, and they're all sitting on the beach just trying to stay warm.
Yeah. And Jaws, the only movie to ever scare me.
Really?
Yes. I was one of those kids who, I was kind of desensitized, We were the first ones on the block to get cable. And so, we watched cable. We watched all the old, my dad watched all the good old, Die Hard and
all the
Michael Dudikoff and all these other things, movies. And that's what we would watch. And, sorry, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, that's all right. I actually saw Jaws at the drive-in.
Yeah.
And I was very young. I think I was 5 at the time. And I mean, I slept through a good chunk of it because it was the second of 2 movies because I always used to do the double features at the drive-in. And I just remember waking up every time I heard that dun, 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 to start getting faster. And then I would wake up and I'm like, what's going on? And then I would get terrified and cover my eyes. And and I don't think it affected me no, of course it affected my life, but I remember like I was afraid to take a bath because I was sure that shark was going to come through that tiny little drain.
That tiny little hole. Yes.
Yeah, that's power.
And pool. I was afraid to go, and we had a lovely pool in Vegas, and I was, that drain, that thing is going to come out of there and it's going to get me.
Yeah.
And what was worse was my parents, let's take the kids to Universal Studios. Great. Well, we get on this cute little tram ride and we're going through. All of a sudden our tram breaks down and it starts to go into the water, and who comes out of the water right next to me is Jaws. And I'm like 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And I'm like,
yeah,
screaming. And I'm like, nope, never again. Let a movie scare me like this.
Yeah, I've seen videos of that ride before they shut it down, and that looked like it could have been, if you were right there and you didn't know that was happening, that could have been especially at that tender age.
Yeah, and then it takes you through like what was it? I think it was King Kong. So you're going through New York City next, and you're like, oh, this is okay. And here comes this giant gorilla, and you're like, oh,
right.
No.
I think when I went on that tour, they did it was Earthquake was the one that they had, which was really, really impressive.
And the water would come out of the city, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. It was so well done. But they had also off of the tram ride, they had a backdraft exhibit. And if I ever learned to respect people that made a movie, it was being 100 feet away from the backdraft exhibit and feeling like my skin was being singed by the heat from the fire. And then I went home. When I got home, I rewatched the movie and I'm like, these guys aren't even 100 feet away. They're there. They're in it. How did they film this movie?
Who knows?
I mean, I had so much more respect than I did for those guys after being at that attraction than I did before I was there. Just because that I just can't imagine saying, yes, I'd like to do this movie. And then after my first day, not just leaving.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot to deal with on top of acting and being in character and all that other stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes it takes you to those points where you're like, I don't know if I can go on.
Yeah. Is there something for you that, would be like if a director said, okay, I don't really have the money to do a stunt double. So I have this stunt. Like, are you really?
I'm always all in, and I tell them too, okay, I got this. And they have film of me. I get pumped up. So I'm standing there and I'm jumping around and I'm, doing a dance or something. And I'll do it. I'll jump in there and I'll do it again. You need another take of that? Yeah, it's freezing in here. Let's do another take. Or I'm one of those people, like, if you want, I want to give you the best. Mm-hmm. I've had the directors, hey, if you want to see something out of me, like really see something and you're not getting it, scream at me, get it out of me, wow. Startle me, and I find that to work, to get that real raw, to get that energy, to really, I haven't had that breaking point of where you're just like, I can't go on. This is it.
That's awesome, though. I love people that are willing to just be all in like that. And, one thing too, that when people are watching a movie, they're seeing the final product. They're seeing the visual corrections, all the editing, and then they're also hearing the music and everything. When you're on set, none of that is there. You're in the woods in a raw moment. There's no music playing. There's no nothing. And you have to create that emotion. Whereas when you watch the film and all those elements are already there, it's easy to ride along with it. But to create it with nothing there, that's the real challenge.
Right. That's what the challenge of acting is definitely all about. And I'm close to 40 years old and I'm still learning a lot. And I've been trying to do this for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, but you've also had a lot going on in your life too.
Yes.
You have a very rich and full life.
I have an amazing life.
You do.
I do.
Congratulations on your new home, your dream home.
Thank you. My dream home. Yay. It fits my 7 children and my husband. Lovely. So we are over the moon excited right now.
Yeah. And it's one thing to move into a house. That's always a stressful and yet exciting time. But to have your dream house, that's really where it matters. Right.
And it's our dream house because, with 7 kids, there's not a lot of houses that fit us. So, to have the look on the kids' face, we get our own room for the very first time was absolutely priceless. So
yeah, I can't even imagine that. That's got to be tough for them to. I imagine that they fight for position quite a bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do. But all in all, they know where they stand, and what their place is on our machine. Our kids are very good. You kind of have to be very structured and everything. We go out to the world and people are like, my 2 kids aren't even that good. I don't know how you manage all 7 of those kids.
Well, once you get them organized, as long as they can stay organized, then it's, pretty easy
that's the problem. We just got to keep the machine oiled.
Exactly. But I would imagine too, from their perspective, having their own space where they can, develop themselves and be who they are is really going to make a big difference than, having bunk beds or anything like that. Like having your own space is really important in this world.
It really is. My girls are so creative too. I know they don't get it from me. They are just amazing little creatures and I can see it already blossoming. And I'm like, wow, who are you? You are my kid, but you are, I didn't know this about you. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's great. And I think that though, we tend to not give ourselves credit for being creative, even though we all are in different ways.
Absolutely.
The way you throw together a birthday party is creative. The way that you pick the colors for your house is creative.
Mm-hmm. Everything that we do.
Yeah, but it's almost like we're afraid to set that standard for ourselves because if we do, then we have to live up to it all the time.
I think we're afraid to be proud of ourselves. I think everyone, somebody's going to judge me if I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
I went 38 years of my life thinking that way. If I think that I'm this way, somebody's going to think I'm self-absorbed or, trying to brag. Mm-hmm. When I'm happy for myself and I'm not afraid to say I'm happy for myself.
And we need to appreciate ourselves, but we also need to celebrate our accomplishments. We need to, be proud of the things that we've done.
Yes.
What turned that type of thinking around for you? What was the breaking point?
The breaking point for me was a health scare. It was like more of a life scare. And after that, a lot of things actually that I didn't know were wrong in my life came into focus and I immediately changed it.
Good.
I could feel, how I felt in my life. I felt like there was always a huge cloud looming. And now, no, there's no cloud. Everything is good. You got to make it good in your heart and in your mind first.
Well, I think those health scares, especially if it's a life and death kind of thing, nothing's going to bring reality to you faster than that. But it's a shame that it takes something like that a lot of times for us to see clearly.
Well, I didn't know I wasn't seeing clearly. I honestly thought I was going through life the way, you were taught. My father instilled in me these things. You're going to work hard all your life, You're going to have a family, you're going to work hard, and you're going to do it till the day you die.
Right.
But you're going to do it, and you're going to be proud of yourself for doing it.
Well, we come from a time where our grandparents especially came from that. You get one job when you're 18 and you stay with that job until retirement. And now, if you interview for a job and they look at your resume and like, you've been with your company for 3 years. Why did you stay so long? Like, aren't you motivated?
Yes, everything has changed. And I come from that old school era because my father was an older parent. Mm-hmm. So I have those, like the older, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I like to come home and clean and cook and do all these domestic things. And I like to go out and have a wonderful job. But at the same time, I'm going to go out and work on cars. And I know how to I can do both.
I like that.
Male and female things. I can bait my own hook. I can go into an auto zone and I know my way around,
That's good. Self-sufficiency is such an important thing, but it's not just the ability to do it. It's that confidence that you know that you can handle situations.
Yes. And if you can't, then learn how.
Right.
Just don't sit there and say, I see a lot of these millennials. I can't do it. It's too hard. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not the way I was taught. I'm going to figure it out and exhaust every resource I can until, the problem's solved.
Well, yeah, I had a friend who used to be a teacher. She just left the teaching profession after this last school year. And she said to me one time, she's, I have to give out tests. And if the kids are offended by a question, they don't have to answer it.
What?
And I thought, what are we teaching people? How are you really preparing them to go out into the world if you're taking every difficult thing and just going, I'm going to take that away from you. You don't have to worry about that anymore. It's the first job that they get, any kind of, pushback from a supervisor or whatever, they're not prepared for that.
It's a sad time.
It is. And I'm not saying that my education, I don't feel that my education that I had, and I graduated in 90, I don't feel that really prepared me for life either. I don't know. There's a lot that was thrown at us that just had nothing to do with anything. And the idea that I was actually prepared for the world when I graduated high school, if I hadn't have done things on my own, if I hadn't been already in the workforce for a few years, for example, or managing my own checking account, right. I would have walked out having graduated and gone, now what do I do?
And I was one of those people I didn't have all that. And what do I do? Didn't know about, honestly, SAT scores. What? When was that test taken?
Yeah.
These days, as parents pretty much have to do all the stuff for the kids, I think. Yeah. I hope it's not going to be like that for my children. I'm trying to teach them to be functioning members of society. But
it's a tough thing when you don't have they spend so much time in school, and that there's so much that could be done with that time. I think that could really utilize it and make them ready to take on the world, where, it so much really does depend on the parents now. And, both parents typically work full time. It just can't be easy for parents at all now. And the schools, because they're so focused on, making it look right, making these, state assessment tests, the scores averaging well enough so that the school can get funding, as opposed to actually educating anyone. It's just like everything else, I feel like it's off kilter.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a shame, but you didn't come here to talk about the educational system. but that's what I love about the way I do this show, is that it's really like, I like that it's just organic conversation.
I do too.
Thank you. So I want to talk about how we met, because your role the day that we met was really more modeling. than film. We met at Phoenix Fan Fusion this past May in obviously in Phoenix, and you were working a gig for Summer Helene at her speech with our friend Ellie, who was on the show a couple months ago. And how did you connect with that?
Well, I was on Facebook one day. That's how it all started. Mm-hmm. Somebody had mentioned that they were looking for her name. What was her name? I think her name was Abe Shirley. And she said, I have a friend. Would anyone be interested? And I was like, oh, I hope she picks me. I am totally interested. And so I believe that she gave my information out, and I got a call back, and they said, you're going to be working for Summer Helene, Paramount. And I was over the moon excited.
Oh, sure.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this year is the first year as a comeback for me. I hadn't been in the industry in, almost 20 years. The whole family thing basically had happened.
Sure. But you never really lost the bug, though.
No.
Like once it's in you, unless something happens to derail you from the enjoyment of it, like if you have a really bad experience and you just don't want to go back to it.
I've had a couple of bad experiences, mostly when I was younger, but this is something that I have wanted to do since I was a very small child. Mm-hmm. Modeling and acting for me is a voice. I came from good upbringings, but difficult situations. And to me, that was my escape. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's very deep.
Yeah, I could, and I understand that because some people do drugs to escape. Some people drink alcohol to escape. Mm-hmm. Right. But I think something like this, because you're in a different world, you're playing someone else.
Right.
It's the perfect way to get away and not do anything that's, potentially harmful to yourself at the same time. But this had to be a tough gig because you're basically standing there for however long she's going to talk. And, you're just standing there.
Yes. And we'd already been there for a few hours, just walking around and getting everybody, waiting ready for her spiel. Mm-hmm. We were walking around all day, just greeting everybody. Come on, see Summer Helene. That was amazing. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, come on up. I had no idea that I was going into this. And I'm like, okay. So I'm running up there and, wearing heels all day and a bikini with a bunch of gore makeup makes a girl tired. And I walk up and they're like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And I'm like, I'm hurrying. And then I look and there's a crowd of people and then there's a podium and then there's that beautiful woman that I had talked to earlier, Summer Helene. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing.
Yeah, it's a real interesting thing. I gave a speech at Comic-Con in 2014, I think it was, because it was right before I moved to LA. And it's really weird being on that side of the room instead of just an audience member. You definitely feel like all eyes are on you the whole time, regardless of whether you're speaking or not.
Right. And the panel she had, she was so engaging, so amazing. And I had never been to anything like this before. So seeing, and I am such a dork. I loved, since I was a young girl, again, Dungeons and Dragons. And I used to play Pendragon and Rips and all those role-playing games, and then all these like Star Wars and Star Trek, and oh my gosh, I was a girl in heaven.
Yeah,
it was just amazing. And my friend Victoria was there. It was, and she is just as cute as a button in all her stuff. And
yeah,
I just, it's a beautiful thing.
I have to say, I did find it a little frustrating because when I got there, I have a couple of friends that had places there. My friend Amanda Tucker, who owns Modified Minds, she had a booth there, and I couldn't find that. And I knew Victoria was sitting with Justin, and he's an amazing artist.
Yes.
And but I walked up and down Artist Alley, I don't know how many times, and I could not find them. So I go upstairs and I go to information. I'm like, here's what I'm trying to find. And she goes, yeah, it should be right here. And it wasn't. So I walked back down through it a couple times again. And I finally just sent Justin a note and said, I can't find you guys. Where are you at? And he said, all the numbers are messed up.
Yes,
look for this number instead and you'll find me. And then I walked right by him. I hear Victoria shouting, Scott Haskin, you get right back here. As if I had, done something bad. But she had changed, like she wasn't blonde that day. And I was expecting her to be blonde. So that's who I was looking for.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. And I went looking for her and I'm like looking around the booth. No, she's like, the one time I leave the booth, you come by. No. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I mean, it's a cool show. I like going to those things. I love how much work people put into their costumes.
Oh my!
Just the fans, I talked to somebody in 2014 that spent, I think it was like 12 hours just on their shield.
I see, and I know people like that, or just role-playing games. Yeah.
I love when people when they're willing to really put effort into what they're doing. I admire that so much.
Me too. It's a craft. It's beautiful.
And it's something you're passionate about, which is why you do it.
Right.
But was it hard? Because what was the speech was what? And it was supposed to be an hour and it ran over. I think it was almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It had to be so hard to just stand there and not just shift your weight from one foot to the other. And
I was.
Were you?
I was definitely doing that. And then, and that's actually when I started feeling the health problems too. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm not feeling good. I might need to sit down. And I'm like, oh, you're going to sit down in front of Summer Helene in front of this panel while she's doing her amazing thing. Oh, don't sit down. But I had to sit down.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, Allie, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Your health is obviously more important than any
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, oh, this is so unlike me. And, and I felt like I felt bad, Mm-hmm. And I was trying to leave there and I was talking to you and I was talking to Summer and I'm like, oh, right now I just want to get into my car and just pass out. It was, yeah.
But you didn't know at this point how bad things really were.
No, not at all.
This was like the precipice of finding out what was going on with you, right?
Right. I think it was about 2 weeks later, I had another TIA stroke. Mm-hmm. And then just turmoil, just sick, very, very sick for a while.
Yeah.
But
how are you feeling now? You sound really good.
I feel amazing. I have lost a lot of weight, unfortunately, but I'm going to try to gain it all back. I'm still dabbling in the modeling. I think I have a couple of acting roles coming up. I hope.
Good.
I really, really want to, after this year, really shoot for the stars and do what I was made to do. Modeling and acting for me is like my voice. I'm being seen. You're listening to me, and coming from, like I said, old school. Women or, kids are to be seen and not heard.
Right.
And to me, this is my voice. This is my story. This is how I'm going to tell it. This is how I'm going to tell the story.
Now, when I say right, I'm not saying right in the fact that I agree with the fact that women should be, not heard and that stuff. I don't agree with that at all.
No, but you've heard those terms, children and.
But growing up in that same era, that same environment. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we're basically from that same generation.
Yeah.
And it really was like, as a child, I often felt like. I tried to be as inconspicuous because I didn't want to bother anybody. Yes. I didn't want to be in anyone's, make anyone upset because I was there. And
that's spilled over into your adult life, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a hard thing to break because that's so anything that you learn as a child, especially extreme behavior like that, which goes against the grain of human nature, that really sticks with you because that digs in deep. It plants some pretty deep seeds in your psychological state.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard to break out of that. But at the same point, you're able to go and put yourself out there and say, I want you to see me, and it's okay for me to be seen.
Right. And that's exactly that eloquently put. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Was that,
absolutely.
Do you think part of the attraction to it was that you saw that it gave you the ability to break that barrier?
Yes, absolutely. When I was a little girl, I remember my father asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the first thing, I want to be a model. Well, what if you can't be a model? That's shooting pretty high, kid. You may not,
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a very honest type of person. And I was like, well, maybe I can go into the army. Girls don't do that,
Right.
So
yeah.
it was like, oh, well, okay. So as a kid, you already got those barriers and those, labels put on you. So.
Right. And having your choices limited by somebody who's obviously a heavy influence in your life does not help.
Right. The most influence. My father was my everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you did it anyway.
Yes, I did.
I like that. So what was your first opportunity to show yourself off? Was it modeling or acting?
It was acting. It was actually it was in Rush Hour 2.
Oh, wow.
I had done a little bit of modeling, and somebody was like, hey, one of my friends just bailed on me. Can you come on in and help? They're looking for another person. And I was like, me? Yeah, absolutely. In my early 20s, being in a movie like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, to now be in a movie like that.
Oh, my gosh, I know.
Can you see yourself in the movie?
Barely.
Yeah.
But they had me as like a speaking role, and I was like, oh, that's so great, but it got cut.
Oh, no.
Yes, but the experience still, it was a week of just, I've never been on a real set before.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Chris Tucker, and then there is, Jackie Chan right in front of me. Holy smokes,
Right. Yeah.
This is crazy.
When I shot my one day on the set of Jason Bourne, Matt Damon, I think, was about maybe 10 feet from me when the scene started. And, or he ran up, I think, at some point to be that close to me. But it was crazy. But there's such an amazing feeling about being with a group of people that not just are professionals and know what they're doing and are organized, but that really are creating something that is going to be seen by millions of people, and you're contributing to that.
Yes.
Even if it's in a minute way. But what disappoints me is like to hear that, it's bad that your scene got cut but
that's okay.
But for the storyline, I understand those kind of edits. But what's a shame is that they don't take all of those bits that people came on and spent that time doing and put those on like the gag reel or the from the cutting floor kind of stuff, so that everybody that showed up and participated can still have that moment without it being in the film.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'd like to see more of that. I mean, honestly, if you see me in Jason Bourne, it's such a flash that I'm in. We did a lot of takes and somebody was getting injured on every take. But and I almost got very badly injured, and I just was able to just at the last minute get my hand up and push myself in a different direction. Yeah. But the only reason I see myself in the film is because I know where I was in that room.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's still amazing to, regardless of whether I made it into the film or not, just to be in that atmosphere. It's exhilarating.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. It kind of gives you that spark. You're like, yes, I love this.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad that you had that opportunity. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It was absolutely memorable, and it's something that I aspire. I really, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. And it's good that you had that experience early, because that kind of probably just really reinforced. Yeah.
It held me through those years, and I had a marriage where it was like, I wasn't able to do any acting or modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm in a marriage where, hey, he helps me out a lot, and we complement each other. We help each other out. So,
well, I would think with 7 kids, there has to be a certain amount of support and going both ways, because it wouldn't work if you guys didn't have that.
Oh, absolutely not. And it was he had 2 boys when we met, and I had 4 girls. And like I told him, I go, we are one big package.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And it was rocky at first, but it's like the planets aligned or something, and everything is it's working out wonderfully, better than I could have ever imagined.
I'm so happy for you guys. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And, I'm curious, and maybe this is a premature question, so you may not be able to answer this, but I'm curious, since you're really saying, okay, in 2020, that's when I'm really going to, like, the engine's got, the tank is full of gas, the engine's revved, let's go.
Yes.
Is there something that you're shooting for acting wise, or are you just saying, I just want to act and I'm happy to take on any kind of roles? Or do you want to do horror? Do you want to do drama?
I want to experience everything. I liked horror, and I did a drama movie before that. I love it all. I love acting. I love going into a character. Okay, so let me learn about who she is, and let me throw some things in there and to see what you come up with. It's almost like kind of like a Frankenstein thing. You're Dr. Frankenstein, and you're putting this character together. You're taking these bits and pieces of all these things that you've seen over the years, and all these characters that that you've even played in your own life's drama, and you just put them all together and you make this creature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
I love that.
I would think too that it would get so stale just doing horror films or just doing romantic comedies or what, because everything's so formulated nowadays. It's almost like you can read Save the Cat and watch the movie unfold.
But that's so boring.
Yeah. And so I think at least doing things in different genres, playing completely different characters in different types of situations would be so much better. Like, I don't know how people that just do one thing, I don't know how that doesn't get stale after a while.
Right. Well, the different genres also make you more of a well-rounded actor,
Yeah.
At least I think.
Well, I would think so, because if you're doing romantic comedies, you obviously aren't going to be screaming and having the terror look on your face. And at least I would hope not, A romantic horror comedy, that's what we need.
That's great. You should write one. I would totally let me volunteer right now.
It's tempting. I think there have been some sort of like parody type stuff, like the, Return of the Living Dead type movies where you have that sort of, romantic comedy in a horror setting and that sort of thing. But I think that it would be, if I were an actor, I think I would want to do that. I think I'd want to, I would look at it like, what do you call it? A buffet.
Yes.
Let me go to this station, and then let me try what's at this station. Let me try what's at this station. And then I'll go back and eat at the ones that I like the most.
Like best. Yes.
But also sometimes you just take what's there. If you've got the time and you want to act and there's an opportunity, it might not be the movie you want to do, but you know what? I don't have anything booked next month. They need me for 2 weeks. Sure. Why not?
And practice makes perfect, so I think it's wonderful.
Well, everything that you do, even in life, those things seep into it. But everything that you do helps you grow as building characters, as becoming those characters, how you handle situations as those characters. And of course, part of that is going to be based on the director, how they want you to handle it versus how you want to do it.
Right.
But everything that you do just kind of adds to the skill set that you have. And you just get better as things go on.
Absolutely.
At least that's the hope anyway.
Oh, yeah.
but what about modeling? So what's your focus with modeling?
With modeling? See, I don't know. Modeling is a little more difficult for me. Acting always just came naturally, and you can always find people, or theater groups or things like that all around your community. Mm-hmm. Modeling, I did not know anybody. I'm from Las Vegas. I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I know that there's a million wonderful photographers out here, and I did not know any of them. So I had a friend. I have a friend, Crystal Singer. She is an amazing model out here. And she's like, come with me. Let me take you under my wing. I will let me show you the scene, let you meet a lot of the people. And ever since then, things have really gone off. And I'm like, I don't even know where I could go from here.
Yeah. Well, it's so important to have those kind of connections and relationship building.
Yes, because it's like,
everything.
where do I go? I feel like I'm a decent looking 40-year-old lady,
Sure.
but and I'm not bad for having a bunch of kids. So
right.
I feel good about me.
What was that picture that you posted the other day, or it got highlighted or something the other day? It was like just a few days after having your baby, and I'm like, you look like you've never, like your skin has never been stretched in any direction whatsoever.
That was, I think it was 9 days after I had my last baby, Morgana. I think I was back down to my regular size.
That was fast. Yeah.
It was, but I also, my father had passed a month before.
Oh.
And, oh yes, in that picture, unfortunately, my sister passes, I think, in a few weeks after that picture was passed. So that was a very, So 1 month apart, I had my father and my sister pass away. So it was kind of a difficult time. So I was a little thinner than usual, but.
Well, you've got this extreme sadness because, as you said, your father was a pretty huge influence in your life.
Oh,
but then you have the joy of giving birth, which is, I would imagine, tremendous. And then the loss of your sister, like that emotional role. I can't even imagine riding that kind of a roller coaster.
The baby was what saved me. When I was going, my father passed away from cancer. And she just having, it's so difficult to explain, but having that entity, having that baby, having that life force inside of you really keeps you on your head in the right place, because I don't honestly know where I would have been if I hadn't had her with me, stuck to me at that time.
Right.
At all. Because, you get lonely at times, and during those times you don't have anybody. She was there with me during everything.
Right.
So I am very thankful for her.
Yeah, that's just a crazy time for sure. And to have stayed healthy through all of that too. I mean, obviously there's going to be a huge amount of depression just losing one family member, let alone two. Right. We're so close. But it's amazing the things that we go through and what we survive and how we move on from those things. You never forget those people, and you replay conversations, you have new conversations with them even though they're not there. Yeah,
every day. I mean, there's every day you still think about them, Sure. I mean, at first it's very painful, and you'll go a few seconds waking up in the morning and not think about it. Just a few seconds, you have a normal day, and then, oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah, that's the worst to me. I would rather not have that at all than have those few seconds, because every time that it happens, it's like you're finding out all over again. And that muscle memory and that just, gut-wrenching punch happens every time. And I hate that.
It's like the movie 50 First Dates. It's a terrible thing over and over and over every single morning.
Yes.
But it gets better. And
it does. Yeah. They say that time heals all wounds, but I think it's just that we find mechanisms over time.
Yes.
We get a little bit more detached over time. But we find different mechanisms to deal with those things because we've been through the traumatic situation. We've adapted, and then we just apply those things without realizing.
Right. And I like to apply science to mine, so I feel like their energy is everywhere. So you know what? They're still around.
I like that.
And that's what helps me, everything is energy. Everything, even if that grain of sand that's sitting right there has energy around it. So, so does everything else. So, hey.
That's a great way of looking at it, for sure. So you said modeling's a little more difficult, but is there kind of stuff that you would prefer to model, or is it something that, because the real difference to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the difference between being an actor and being a model is that when you're an actor, people are looking at your character. They're looking at what your character is doing. Yes, there are those people that are going to scrutinize how you look and all that. But for the most part, if you're invested in the movie, you're not really thinking about that. You're thinking about the storyline.
Right.
When you're modeling, everything then becomes vulnerable.
Yes. And you have to be aware of every single body part and try to be aware of the way you look and the way you stand and pose and you have to suck in and push out and tuck, and you have to do all this simultaneously. And it's insanity, but at the same time, it's so beautiful because it's like a ballet. I did a photo shoot with James Sasser and his wife Beverly a couple months ago out here in Arizona. And I was in this beautiful Spanish dress, and they were putting me in these beautiful hats, and I was sucking in and pushing out and, making angles and with my body and trying to get, the light just perfect on my, face and different body parts. But it was a beautiful dance between the photographers and the model, and it's poetic. It's beautiful.
I could understand that. I mean, obviously, I've been on some photo shoots with models doing like my album covers and things like that. But it's really almost like a dance.
Yes.
And it's really amazing to watch that unfold, to see that especially if the photographer and the model are really connected.
There's a synergy. Absolutely.
Yes. And I mean, there's so many things that both of you have to be, obviously the things that you just mentioned and then from the photographer side, every nuance of lighting, every nuance of shade, every nuance of angle and, shutter.
And you have to, and as the model, you have to be mindful of that because you have to know what they're seeing. You almost got to read their eyes,
Right. Yeah. And you have to be able to take direction very quickly.
Yes. Super quickly. Like, without hesitation, just go.
Yeah, it can't be turn to your left, no, your other left. Like there's no time for that. Like you just need to make the right moves.
And that all comes with experience,
Yeah, and of course, the more that you work with a photographer, it becomes second nature over time.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not shy these days.
Yeah. Well, I think you're at that point where you've experienced enough things and you know what you want and what to expect of yourself. And what you're capable of doing, which is everything, because there's no barriers for you.
Exactly.
I think you just naturally kind of get to that. Okay, you know what? You're going to have to bring me a better challenge. You're going to have to do something that makes me interested now to be here because I want something spectacular every time I step out the door.
I'm almost to that point.
Are you?
Honestly, I'm thankful. Every photographer that comes in and shows me their way, of doing stuff. I love that. Even if it's not the best stuff, I love just getting out there. I need the practice. You need the practice.
Right.
I want to see what you have. I want to see what you can do with this model. I want to see what you can do with this old bag of bones. I like that kind of stuff and I love it.
Yeah.
Somebody could throw something in there. Oh my gosh, I've never even thought of that before. That's really amazing. And you could take that with you. And vice versa.
And that's the cool part about working with different photographers is that every one of them will bring their own thing to the table. And you really do have different experiences every time.
Right.
Different creative connections and things like that. So I love when people that have been in a band for a long time will go do a project, between tours, they'll go do a project with a different artist because you can only grow so much, I think, working with the same people all the time because you're only going to grow in connection to each other. Whereas if you go off and do different things, then you're all going to grow as individuals. And then when you come back together, then you're all going to be on the next level.
Right. Exactly.
So do you like shooting with other models or do you prefer that to be a more personal experience?
Honestly, I just did a shoot where we were all in pasties and hose and nude underwear and the most beautiful hats by Trampolina. Oh my gosh. And I'd never really done a group photo like that. There were three of us and the photographer, and it was amazing. These girls are freaking fabulous.
Wow.
And I love that because I can learn. I learn off of these girls. They're them and the way they move, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I should use that. And I like the way you did your lips on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I like to learn, and at the same time, I like to go out there and do my solo thing. Let me show you what I can do. And I like critique me. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me, what I could do better.
Mm-hmm. But do you take that kind of with a grain of salt because everybody's opinion?
Everyone is different.
Yeah, it's what that person wants in that moment. And even if they were to say, like, right now, here's how I feel, 2 days later, they might feel completely different about that same thing. So feedback is a weird thing for me. I try to find whether I think it coincides with how my views are as an artist, but I also realize that what they felt in that moment might not be what they feel now.
Right.
It's like if people ask you your favorite song, well, I don't really have a favorite song, but if you want to say, like, what song inspires me or makes me happy right now, it's this. But if you ask me tomorrow or 20 minutes from now, it could be a completely different genre of music. It
all depends on how you're feeling.
Yeah. So how do you coordinate then with other models? Like, so let's take this one. Obviously there was discussions about, like, what the photo shoot was supposed to represent. So it like, kind of give us an idea of how that would work, like how you selected the outfits or how you worked with the director to create the concept.
Actually, it was all created for me. Oh. They were talking about that this was going to go to Italian Vogue. And I was so very excited when I got there. I was told to bring pasties, nude hose, and, just the outfit. And I was like, okay, I can do that, And she said she'll provide the hats. And I thought we were going to put on some clothes, but we ended up not. And I was absolutely fine because it was very well done and beautiful. And it was like, reminded me of like the 1950s slumber party. Oh, it was beautiful. We were all done up kind of like fembots, almost in a way. Mm-hmm. And we had these beautiful hats. And sometimes we had to look like we were powered down, or, it was such an interesting, different concept.
That sounds like it. Yeah.
It was something I'd never seen before. And it turned out amazing.
Well, let me ask you this. When you get a script, you read the script, you know what your character does, you pretty much know what you're in for. But when it comes to a modeling job, you don't really always know because a lot of it's kind of spontaneous.
It is. And sometimes they tell you, even hair and makeup. Oh, come with no hair and no makeup. Well, you better believe after my first time, make sure you bring your hair, bring your makeup, just in case.
Right.
Because you might not even get to that point. I had a runway show and they're like, no, we'll do your hair, we'll do your makeup, and I was like, okay, great. I was the last one to get my stuff done, and I felt that I didn't look my best. Oh. And and it kind of, I didn't want it to show, but it showed, and after that I learned, you got to make sure that you have everything, be self-sufficient. Even if they tell you to bring this, bring extra, or bring a bag full of stuff just in case. I learned that from the first day.
Well, and the thing is, with a runway show, I mean, you have to walk down that runway with 100% confidence. And if you don't feel like you look right, then how do you do that?
You're half-assing it. Yeah, you go out there and I gave it my all that I could. Right. I really did. And afterwards, I felt relieved, but I was like, you know what? There's always a next time. And this was your first time. I try not to be too hard on myself. I did that a lot growing up and as an adult. I don't need to beat myself up anymore. I just need to encourage myself. Okay, that's fine. We didn't feel our best. We're never going to do that again. So,
well, if you could take it and turn it into something like you did, that's a positive, where you're like, okay, I learned this lesson.
Yes, everything's a lesson.
I wish I had known before, but I didn't. So now that I know, I'm glad I had this experience, because now going forward, this will never happen again.
Yes. And everyone always, oh, you're so prepared. And oh, yeah. And if anything ever rips, breaks, I've got a sewing kit. I got this, I got that. I'm your gal.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah. And that especially comes in handy with a shoot like this other one where you've got other people there because you can help them out. And that's part of
Exactly.
the relationship building, Hey,
Yes.
does anybody have a sewing kit? Yeah, I got one here. And then you become the person that you're known for being prepared, which is great,
Right.
but you're also somebody that people learn that they can trust and they can count on.
Right. And is reliable. Absolutely. And I want to be that person because there's so many fake, mean, conceited. There's a lot of ugliness
Yeah.
out there, and I'm not that way. I want to make this beautiful again. Let's make modeling beautiful again
Yeah.
because it's pretty ugly right now. It seems to be
is.
ugly.
And I mean, from the human standpoint, yes, you absolutely want to be that person because that's just who you are naturally. But also the other side of it that's beneficial is that from a business standpoint, if a photographer is looking for a model, who is he going to call? Somebody that was difficult and gave them a hard time and pouted and kicked their feet at everything? Or is he going to call somebody that not only was there for their shoot, but also helped out other people in the process?
Right.
You can take a person and create an ad or a scene or whatever, and you can do that fine. But if you're going to get the choice of who to work with, you're going to bring somebody that makes you happy, that is easy to work with, that you can walk in feeling comfortable with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And anytime, somebody's like, hey, do you have a friend? Absolutely. That's how I got Ellie Cat in there.
Oh, okay.
And she was hanging out with James Sasser. He's a photographer, and she was, I believe, hanging out with him that day. And I called down there. I said, hey, Summer Helene needs another model.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were going to do the bathing suit. And they're like, no, she's going to go down there. She's going to go do Laura Croft. She's going to do her thing. And I was like, okay.
Right. Yeah. Because she was already going to be Laura
She was
Croft.
already, yeah. And I was like, oh, too bad, And Summer Helene's assistant was saying, yeah, we need a Laura Croft. And I'm like, no way. I've got you a girl.
Yeah.
So I called back down. She agreed. And I was like, yes. I was like, that's awesome. Not only did I get another girl on, but I'm helping somebody out. And it makes me feel amazing when I get to help out. I'm such a dork when it comes to things. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, really, you're helping a lot of people out because A, they don't have to spend so much more time scrambling trying to find somebody.
Right, yeah.
B, you're helping Ellie out because you're getting her, connected with this gig and a group of people she wasn't familiar with that now know her. And then you're helping, Summer out, and it's just a great overall thing. And also, the show's not delayed or doesn't look weird because they couldn't find anyone at the last minute.
Right. And then we actually enhanced the show because she needed a makeup artist too. And I was like, oh, I just got done working with Victoria Sandoval.
Victoria Sandoval, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she is phenomenal with makeup. And I was like, oh, can I get her? And she was like, I'm already here. I'm like, can you work for Summer Helene? She was like, yes. It was magic that day. I'm like, I got 2 people for her. I feel extra awesome today.
And she's a sweetheart. I love Victoria.
Yes, and she's going out for the Maxim right now. So
I saw that. I'm so excited for her. Yeah, what a gutsy thing to do. I mean, to me, because I'm not somebody who likes to be seen anyway. If I could, I would put on 3 layers of clothes just to go to the mailbox and hide. Like, I would just, what I should just do is get a hazmat suit and to just walk around with that all the time because I'm very, very self-conscious. But to even just to do a modeling shoot, I think for me, I couldn't do it. So I have great respect for you and everyone that has the sort of strength to do that kind of thing. But to go out for Maxim, that takes a real strength.
That's a ballsy move. Yeah. These girls, and I love it. I think it's great.
I do too. But let me ask you, because, thinking about the day that we met, and you're not wearing really skimpy clothes, but you're definitely, you got a lot of skin showing for this particular, because it was a panel on, what was it? Violence and and horror violence and horror in Hollywood or something like that.
Right. It was sex sells. It was sex sells and violence, or sex and violence.
So you're standing there in a bikini for an hour and a half, having people look at you while they're listening to Summer. Is there do you get self-conscious at points? Do you kind of feel vulnerable, or are you just confident?
Absolutely. I'm a mother of 5. I have got things that droop in the back sometimes. And, walking around, you kind of just, you know what? I may not feel like I look good, but I'm gonna act like I think I do. It's kind of difficult, when so many people are looking at you and staring, and you feel like they're picking you apart when they probably are not.
Right. Or they are.
And hey, you know what? If you guys knew that, I'm an older lady with some kids, you guys would be like, you know what? Good for her. I think because I get a lot of stink eye when I go out.
Really?
People aren't, let me tell you, when people say, oh, they're pretty, they get whatever they want, life is good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's not the truth. And please be nice to, everybody. Everyone just be nice to everybody, not just the ugly people or beautiful people, or everyone's beautiful.
I think one of the biggest directions that we've gone wrong in society is just seeing somebody and thinking we know what they must be about.
Yeah.
Maybe you're walking down the street on a Sunday in a nice dress, just window shopping. And I can say, oh, you know what? You're probably some rich Scottsdale chick that doesn't have anything better to do in her life, so she's going window shopping. But what if you're from Tempe and you had to save 6 months for that dress, and you've just been waiting for this one day where you could walk down the street? You're the same person that I'm looking at. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we tend to make these assumptions about people, and I'm not saying that I don't do that from time to time, but I really try to be conscious of it. If I start doing that, I try to be aware of it and stop, because I don't know who you are. It's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair to make judgments or assumptions just based upon looks.
Yeah.
And I've had people make some very rude comments, and I'm like, wow, your parents must have been not very good, because you're portraying some feelings that you got to work on you, boo.
Yeah. What happened to you in high school that you're like this?
Yeah, I've had I was out one time with my husband at a spa out here. We saved money for a long time to stay the night at that beautiful, spa and resort and everything. And we were eating this beautiful restaurant, and this woman, I was wearing a very lovely outfit for my husband, and showed a little cleavage, and and that's okay. And I overheard her say that I was a hooker.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. And I try not to get upset.
Yeah.
Because they kind of win. But I was like, honestly, when she walked by, I go, honestly, I'm just, here with my husband. Sorry, not a hooker.
Yeah. Was that here in Vegas, or was that in Arizona?
That was in Arizona.
Okay, that's a little more shocking. If you were here in Vegas, I would have said, okay, I think that's the assumption a lot of times.
Actually, I find Arizona to be a little more rude.
Really?
People are here. Yes. Wow. We went out to an area called Globe, Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is predominantly, it's a Native American area. They have all their casinos and all that stuff, and we decided to go out there for a lovely staycation, and we went out by the pool, and there were about 40 people stopped dead in their tracks just to make fun of me.
Wow.
It hurt. It hurt. And my husband, I sat out there for a little bit, and I heard the comments, and tried to, it doesn't bother me. But my husband's like, hey, I'm going to go up to the room and grab something. I'm like, nope, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
And it ruined our whole vacation.
Sure.
Because everyone kind of looked, at me like, oh, who's this snobby bitch?
Right.
I want to look good on my vacation. Why do I have to not.
You're there with your man and you want to look good and you want to feel good and you want him to be happy. And I mean, not that,
Yeah.
he's has to have that visual component to be happy, but a
No,
lot
but
of
I want
guys,
to look good for my man,
yeah, but
We
a
both
lot of
deserve
guys,
that.
have that as a hang up more than anything else. Like if, I'm not going out with you until you do this or whatever. And it becomes almost like a passive aggressive sort of thing. So I don't mean to
Yeah.
imply that he's that way because I don't know him, but
Not at all.
just, you're obviously there visiting and I just don't get the way people treat each other anymore. I really don't.
I don't either. It's pretty sick,
Yeah.
sad, and it should be ashamed, honestly. If my kids ever did anything like that, I would be so upset and have to reboot these children. I think we need to be rebooted,
Yeah.
I don't know what we need to do to repair society.
I don't either. I think, I hate to say that it's going to take something catastrophic, but I hope not. But I think there is a certain awakening within a lot of people where they're kind of starting to realize what's valuable and what's not. But maybe I'm just saying that because I'm from, an older generation, and maybe my generation is just starting to wake up and go, I don't need to be like I was when I was in high school anymore.
Right. We all need to change everything's changing. We need to adapt with it.
Yeah.
Change our minds with it.
I just want to live in a world where I can go outside and know that there's not going to be people being mean to each other unless, I understand retaliation and getting even in that. I don't like to do it, but I understand it at least. What I don't understand is where it starts in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that sets it in motion.
Yeah, or where it ends. How could you let yourself go so far? I mean,
yeah. I just don't understand why you would want to treat somebody badly, especially somebody if you know somebody and they're not a good person, I could understand you distancing yourself or whatever, but some stranger walking down the street, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It's unnecessary.
Yeah, it really is.
Just smile. It's infectious. You go out and you smile. That's going to make 10 other people smile, and that's just going to make it's like a disease. It'll fly all over the place, But if you harbor these negative and put it out there, that's all you're going to get back.
Well, when I was still living in Arizona, I would come to Vegas quite often, 3 to 5 times a year usually. And I tried an experiment one time where I decided that everyone that I interacted with, I was going to interact with interest. So if I went up to, somebody in a sundry shop to buy a bottle of water or something, it wasn't just going to be, hey, how's it going? It would be, how are you doing today? A genuine interest. And it's amazing.
I like that.
The responses that I got out of people. And as I would hang around, kind of like not really leave right away and see how they greeted the person after me, as opposed to the way that they greeted me or the person before me. A lot of times I really heard a genuine difference because, they see so many people in a day and it's just cursory conversation, almost might as well not even speak at all for as fake as it is. It really does make a difference to have that. And so that's the kind of stuff that I try to remember to do on a regular basis.
I like that. And I do this similar, but I use their names. I like to say, once I'm done with, say, a transaction or something, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Stephen. I like that. And
that personalization.
Yeah.
But see, if I do that, then I'm afraid that while I'm trying to look at their name tag, that they're going to think I'm checking out their chest.
Oh my gosh.
That's how self-conscious I am.
And we have to be that way these days. That's so terrible.
Yeah, it really is. Because while I'm trying to do the nice thing and be courteous and respectful of that person, then, eventually they could actually think I'm horrible.
Everyone needs to chill out. Just calm down.
Yeah. Just put on a couple of episodes of The Office and relax a bit,
It's perfect.
Do something.
Everyone just chill out.
That's right. Well, before we go, so you were in Maya with our dear friend Victoria. How is that? Do you know where they are in production? How it's coming along?
Right now, I do believe they're in editing. Production is pretty much, we wrapped up everything. Editing is underway now. Last I heard, it was supposed to come out October, I think around Halloween time.
Oh, that's excellent.
but we'll see. You know how productions and editing and stuff goes.
Oh, yeah. Now, when you say come out, I don't, if you can't talk about that, that's fine. But is it coming out on DVD? Is it coming out on Netflix? Do you know what the distribution is going to be?
I'm not 100% on that. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing it either way.
Oh, thank you.
Everything that I've heard about it, it sounds like it's going to be a great film. And, obviously we've had Victoria on the show right at the beginning of filming. And she and I have talked several times about when you're coming back on the show. And we just have not found time because she has been nonstop.
She's a busy woman.
She is. From the time that you guys started filming. And right now she's in, I think it's Salt Lake City at another con.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, she's just on fire all the time. And I love that.
Me too. Oh, I wish I would have gone that route.
Well, you know what, though? You've got this new focus.
I do.
You've got, you have connections now. You have people that know you. You have people that are comfortable working with you.
Right.
You've got a good foundation. So I think that, come 2012, come 2020, it's just hit the ground running, between now and then and set everything up. And then just go for it.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to see what happens next. I think I have a really good feeling. I think things are going to go great.
I do too. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and keep us posted on what happens.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. I will. Absolutely.
I'm glad. Well, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your night and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, what an awesome person. I'm so glad that she took some time to come on the show, and I'm so glad that she's getting back into the industry that she's clearly so passionate about. And I wish her the absolute best and hope that she comes and visits us again so that we can see the success that she's had and make sure that she's happy and healthy. So that's it for this week. Make sure that you leave a message, leave some feedback, leave a thumbs up, leave a star rating on any of the areas that you listen to. Follow the podcast and you'll get the update when a show comes out, usually every Wednesday, late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. And then every once in a while, I do a Saturday episode when I get kind of double booked. So thank you guys very much for joining me. Much appreciated on my end. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast. Cheers.